So I'm just going to record this video to go over the current state of my V100 printer and some of the modifications that I have made, as well as the modifications that I am going to hopefully be installing over the next couple of weeks. So this is my heavily modified V103 printer by Matt the Printing Nerd. I first made this a couple months ago and have really quite enjoyed it. This is my first self-made printer. The whole of the frame was printed on my Anycubic Viper. Yeah, and the assembly was fairly easy. I had some difficulty, particularly on the software side of things. And then there are some minor inconveniences with assembly of the gantry and just general motion system. It's quite fiddly. But overall, the build went pretty smoothly, and out of the box I was able to send in my serial submission with a sub 15-minute benchy. And yeah, and since then, as you may see, I've made quite a lot of pretty significant modifications. Primarily is the CPAP cooling. So currently I'm running two 120mm radial fans on either side. These are 24 volts 0.5 amp fans, so they're actually I guess weak enough that I can just plug them straight into the SKR Pico with no issues, since the SKR Pico can handle up to an amp probably if there is cooling, which there is. And these are pretty strong. They do a really good job. Yeah, and basically on either side we've got the fan that goes into this this air tower, and inside the shape is very different than what it is on the outside. The outside is just for aesthetic purposes. On the inside it's more of a kind of a light cone shape with an 11-degree, it's closing at 11 degrees, and then it goes into the CPAP hoses, which are then just wrapped in like a mesh, just to stop them from rattling so much. I found that when printing of two CPAP hoses at high speeds, they really like to just rattle against each other, and I was concerned that that would change the effectiveness of input shaping. I originally did start with just a single CPAP hose, going into like that, still two fans, but I found that there was just so much turbulence and resistance introduced by having two airstreams combined into one, then be split up again. I just wasn't really getting full use of the fans, so I decided to just do the two fan setup, which also looks better. This was the tower that I used for the single setup, and it's pretty ugly. I think that having the two towers, one on either side, also just kind of looks pretty cool. I think the resistance and weight saved by this setup is minimal. It definitely doesn't really save weight. I think there's a lot of resistance introduced by these, especially with this kind of mesh around it. So this is a modification. It's not really good for weight saving, in my personal opinion. This is more a cooling and aesthetic upgrade. The one thing I should say about these fans is, perhaps I just installed them wrong, I don't think I did, is they only have two speeds. You either run them at full blast, which is very good cooling, or you run them at less than full blast, because in fluid, whether you put 50%, 80%, or 99% part cooling, it will be the same speed. Not quite sure why that is. Yeah, but if you're able to get past that, it's fine. I mean, I usually print fairly fast. The current print is only printing at 50% speed right now, so that so the audio is a little bit better, because it's very, very loud otherwise. yeah, I think this is a pretty cool mod, but I will not have this for much longer. I'll get to that in a moment. Some other basic mods I've made. Just adding just a nicer tray for the board and fan over here. And then also for stepper motor cooling, which is definitely necessary for faster prints. I got these Raspberry Pi CPU coolers. I saw these on a YouTube video, I don't remember what channel, but they were being used to cool a Hotend, but I figured these would actually be pretty good for stepper motor cooling. These were 17 euros a piece, and they're pretty effective. Previously, these were getting to like 60C pretty quickly, and now these don't really go past 30C, even when printing speedboats. Now, since these are designed for Raspberry Pis, the mounting options are not very good. In time, I will just have to make some kind of adapter, but I'm lazy. So to install it, I just screwed one side in, kind of in the slot, in the space in between the stepper and the frame. And then this arm over here, I'm basically holding it down with a spring, which is screwed just directly into the frame. Pretty scuffed. It means they're installed at an angle, but it works. So, you know, no one not to complain. They did originally come with 5-volt fans, and this is a 24-volt setup, so I just used a couple of extra 24-volt fans and stuck them on there. Yeah, those are really the only upgrades I've made so far. Yeah, that's about it. But I do plan on making some really significant upgrades in the next little bit. First one being the Hotend. I'm still running the CHC Pro. It works great for normal prints like this kind of print. It's fabulous, but for speedboats, it's just not great. This is currently my fastest boat. I did this in 6 minutes and 20 seconds, which it could be faster, but really, extrusion's really the issue here. You got pretty consistent under extrusion, and just the surface is just pretty ugly. Yeah. So that's going to be my first upgrade. I'm going to switch to the Rapido 2 Ultra High Flow Plus, I think it's called. It's not nice spending that much money on a Hotend, but you know, hopefully it will be worth it. Additionally, I'm going to be switching out these motors. Currently I'm using just kind of generic, I think, Stepper Online NEMA 17s. I'm going to be switching to the Watanabe motors, the same ones that Matt used in his 3-minute benchy. I only ordered 2. I mean, I really only care about the XY motors. I think that the Z and the extruder are fine as is. These motors are fine. But for the X and Y, currently, whenever I try and get beyond 50 or 60,000 millimeters per second squared acceleration, it starts to skip and just layer shift. Or if I go above 700 millimeters per second, just for normal moves. So hopefully those motors will help that out. Yeah, because currently my speed is really limited by extrusion first of all. Rapido should solve that, and then acceleration. If I can't get above 60k, I'm not going to be doing any impressive times. And the main big upgrade that I'm doing is going to be auxiliary cooling. If you've seen the 24/7 printing of Voron Zero, you'll already be familiar with this concept. Basically, there'll be no cooling on the tool head at all, and no hoses that go to the tool head either, so it will be an ultra lightweight print head. And instead, we're going to use the same fans, just kind of mounted on the side. I made these little air ducts. They'll just kind of fit right on the frame, like that, but the one below it's printing right now, so I can put it there. It'll just basically be shooting air in from the sides. These fans should be plenty strong for that. So on either side I'll have one of these guys. And then just to increase airflow to the nozzle slightly, I'm going to have air ducts on the side of the print head. Something like that. I'm still in the prototyping phase for these. I didn't want to just take 24/7 printing's head and just put it on this. I still wanted to kind of look something like a V100 tool head. So I've gone through a few prototypes. Most of them are kind of scuffed, but I'm getting there slowly. I'm actually printing the next prototype right now. I think this one will be the one. Yeah. So it will look something like this. Camera quality is not the best, but it will look something like this. Super lightweight. It will have the Rapido Hotend, and yeah, hopefully that will allow me to get somewhere close to, or I mean ideally better than, the 3 minute and 3 second record set by Matt so far. That would be awesome. I think that if the cooling is good enough, I think we can get there. Yeah, the cooling's just going to be a bit difficult because, I mean, I'm terrible at CAD. I mean, I'm not even designing these in any kind of CAD software. I'm literally using Blender, so that just makes it difficult. I also don't really know much about aerodynamics and so on, so it's a little tricky, but hopefully it'll be good enough. Oh, and one more modification I have already made, which I think is pretty cool, is, well, the machine originally comes with two 8mm linear rods for the x-axis, and I switched the lower one for a 6mm, so that does save weight in Y movements pretty significantly. So for the new tool head, I'll be using these long 6mm linear bearings for the X, and then on top just the same one as usual. This is what the rod carriage will look like. 6 on the bottom, 8 on the top. The 6mm is going to be a bit longer, so I just extended this out a little bit. Yeah. So it's going to be a shame to see these hoses go. I really like the way it looks when it's printing. I think it just looks really cool. But hopefully the performance boost by getting all that weight off the head is going to be worth it. If you've got any feedback or ideas, particularly about the design of the tool head, please comment, because these are, I think, going to be the biggest issue in my build. I've basically just been watching a bunch of 247 stuff, screenshotting it, and trying to copy the ducts while still trying to keep the V100 aesthetic. Yeah. Anyway, if you watched to the end, thank you. Please, if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments. Yeah, bye.